Hey guys, welcome to another day on the shop. Today, we're working on the CJ. Let's check it out. So, this is my CJ. It's my 1989 CJ5 with a 304 AMC under the hood, 2-barrel carb, 3-speed manual with a nice little transfer case. I think it's T20. Or that's transmission. I can't remember. Yeah. I don't know. It's been a little while since I've talked about it. All I know is I like driving it, and it's very old school, and it needs a lot of work to ever be considered, I don't know, reliable. So, yeah, let's hop up under the Jeep, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with what I need to work on. All right. First thing is, I got a little oil leak right here. Yep, a little oil leak coming from a couple of different places. I don't run this too often. I've probably put 100 miles on it, if even, since my last oil change. But I've never got all the dirt off here either. Never washed up under here. So I got an oil leak on the, looks like rear main seal. Got an oil leak on the transfer case and the rear seal of the transmission. And then we have, oh, here's the drive shaft. We got a little wiggle jiggle in that, which isn't good. Let's come on back a little bit further to the axle if I can get up under here. All right, so here is the axle. The axle, if I can move my light somewhere, there we go. The axle has a little curve up right here, and it looks like it's worn. So it looks like the whole axle has been moving back and forth because it has some wear right there. So that is a concern of mine, because this little pad up here that's supposed to be flat all the way around is not flat. And then that has backed out a little bit, so I need to do that. There's a little gap right here. I need to tighten that up. On the other side, it's the same exact way. Whee! So this is curved up pretty good, and it has some wear marks right there. These are tight, but I can probably snug them down some more, I'm guessing. I don't really know. And so that's the back. Let's go back to the front. Oh. Alright, so we're back up front. First, look at the play in that front joint. That's shot. So I'm thinking about taking the bolts out to the U-joint right here and just trying to tighten that pinion bolt down and seeing if that nut will tighten down anymore. And eventually I'm gonna have to redo the race and the bearing and all that in there. Secondly, look at the play right here with no problem at all, which is not good, as well as back there. None of that is good. So that could just be the U-joint back there. But on top of that, I'm missing a transmission bolt, and then this little doohickey is just loose. I mean, that's a stabilizer, so that's no good. So I've got a lot to yeah, that's Bear. He likes to come visit me. I've got a lot to work on with making this a little bit reliable. Oh yeah, here's another thing. This header right here is pressed against the leaf spring mount, and it has hit a couple of times coming down on that bolt. So I need new mounts. So this whole Jeep needs a lot. And I do enjoy it though. I just need to fix some minor things here and there to make this where I can actually drive it places and not think I'm gonna die. Because, yeah, like that. All right, well, I'm a death trap. So, let's get to work. Well, here's some parts I got. I've got a new bolt for the stabilizer for the transmission, some new bushings. And then it doesn't come with the metal washers for it, so I've got some fender washers and then another washer and the bolt or the nut to go along with it. My issue, I have to drop the transmission mount and yeah, to get that thing out of there. On top of it, I've got to cut it because the threads are so mangled that, yeah, it just has to be cut out. So I'm going to drop the transmission cross member, and I got to find another bolt for it anyway for the transmission. And once I do that, it should just pop out, and I should pop this in, and that should take care of just that. While the transmission cross member is out, I'll probably just grease a couple things and see if that will help out towards some vibrations and whatnot. And then we'll start looking at the rear and the front pinion. Alright, well, this thing fell, and then it has one little puck holding everything together. It didn't even have a nut on top.
Hello, Daddy.
Hello, child. So now, with everything, I'm gonna kind of get some of this grease and nastiness out. We're gonna use some old simple super clean and squirt it on here, and then get the wire brush and wire brush it, and then go spray it with a hose. Alright, well, the skid plate is still being degreased. It's got a lot of dirt and grime on it. Did a couple of the Zerg fittings down here. I've got to shave off a little weld right here that somebody put. And yeah, then we'll work our way on more Zerg fittings and pull off that front drive shaft and see if we can fix a little bit of the shifting on it. My contemplation on the back here for the back axle is if that thing's crushed, I may have to take a plate and put between there a thicker plate, drill a hole out, weld it to it, and hope that holds, or get new brackets eventually. But some of this plate's pretty thick. I got thicker, and it might go back there just so this axle doesn't roll anymore, because I don't want it to roll while I'm driving down the road and it's shifting. That would not be cool. So it's contemplation, and it might happen. So I'm gonna throw some PB Blaster on all those bolts on the U-bolts back here, and we're gonna pop them off, and or first tighten them up, see if that helps. If that doesn't help, then we'll put a plate back there. Over time, the front, we're just gonna throw some PB Blaster on it with the front drive shaft, and we'll pop it off. Well, we got the pan back. Still has a little bit of crud in it, but not too bad. A lot better than it was. Grinded off a little weld right there, and then come in here on this other frame rail where I had a little place down here, right there. I grinded it off to flush it out and make that all flat. So we're done with that now. Moving on. Well, pulling out this drive shaft, looks like I'm going to be doing a little rebuild on it because this collar is not very good. The shaft play is not very good. Need some new U-joints, and I just squirt grease on here, and that was a mistake. So we'll get 2 new U-joints. We'll see if we can get a little collar right here, and yeah, we'll rebuild this, and then it can stay out because I'm not using four-wheel drive for a while. So we'll take that out. That'll take some pressure off the transmission and transfer case anyway. And then this front pinion is something I've got to deal with. The transfer case pinion isn't as loose, but the front, let's look at the front. So coming up under here, look at this thing. Back and forth, and it just wiggles. So it needs a new bearing, race, and possibly everything. I mean, it just doesn't sound good. This one back here is not as bad. So it just has a little play. Needs a new seal, but that might just be all it needs, is a new seal and stuff like that. So we are going to rebuild the front drive shaft. Not that I planned on it, but it's going to happen now. I still got to find one bolt for the transmission. And I may have to rebuild the rear drive shaft as well, so I might as well just buy both kits and buy 4 new U-joints. And since I'm doing it anyway, it doesn't take much. It's 4 nuts on each side, and you pop it off and then put them back in, and that's it. All right, well, it's the next day, and I went searching for a bolt right there. And yeah, I don't have one here at the shop, so I've got to go get one. It's a little machine bolt. It's like a grade 8 or so. I just don't have that exact measurement of a bolt, and I don't know why. I've got 15 bajillion bolts here. That's the only size I don't have. I've got every other size, just not that one. So we've moved on. Measured up the length and width of where the spring perch goes. I'm gonna do 6 by 2.5, and I have a piece of angle out here, which is about 1/4 inch. So 6 by 2.5. Both sides, 2 of them. Then I gotta drill a hole, or just cut one out with the plasma, which is probably what's gonna happen, so it makes it even easier, quicker, and everything else, because yeah, you got a plasma, why not use it? So I gotta measure up where the bolt hole goes for these springs. Once I do that, we'll stick it in there, and I'm just gonna weld it to the perch for right now, because I gotta replace these perches, and I'm impatient, and I'm not gonna wait and order one yet, because I have a plan to save me some money on some cutting of metal and bending of metal and whatnot. It's hot today. But if you've never seen my Tool Tuesday of the Arc Captain Cut 50, that's what we're gonna be using today. So yeah. It is spot on for what I'm about to do. It 50 amps out of 220 cutting tip or cutting torch. I can do 220, 110. It's compact, works fantastic. So I'm gonna get everything together, and then I'm gonna go out here and cut this real quick, and y'all get to watch. And I gotta just measure up that one hole that I'm talking about. And once I do that, I will get this in here, and hopefully it won't take too long. So let's do that. All right, well, the belly pan has to go in first, because I can't lift the back axle with the transmission being held up by the jack. I need a lift in here so bad. That's coming. 2024 lift, and many other tools in here. So yeah, I'm gonna put this belly pan back on, even though I'm missing that bolt. I'll put the bolt back in for now. Actually, no, I won't, because I'll go get one today. So I'll put everything back in, minus the one bolt that I need for the transmission, and I'll just line it up with it, and we'll go from there. And yeah, we'll get this pan back in. So this whole project started just finding this issue, and So yeah, we're gonna stamp this in here and get it handled around that transmission mount. So let's get this in here and yeah, put it all back in. All right, so I found an issue. This hole is way too big. This whole entire thing, if you can see, it just wallows around, and you can see the size of that hole versus that hole. So I'm gonna get a washer, and I'm gonna put a washer between it and stabilize this a little bit better so it's not going all over the place. I'll probably stick it up in here and probably put a tack weld on each side just to hold it to where it's not moving around, because I don't like how that's going. So yeah, let's do that. All right, test fitting the washer. Just took a fender washer and just drilled it out a little bit more. Might do it on both sides, but I can just tack it in here and it should stabilize this a little bit better. I can just do it on one. It's just this hole's all wallowed out, so one might suffice. Let's do that. I'll just put it on the bottom. Yeah. Well, that's done. It's in there. It's not moving. I'm only gonna do one on one side. Got a lot of smoke in here. I am using flux core, so it is quite nasty. Using my little Reboot multi, oh, what is it called? Multi-use, I don't know if it's multi-use. It does TIG, MIG, stick, lift TIG, which I'm not understanding that because, yeah, you'll just have to see in a Tool Tuesday when I do it. But I put this thing to work. It's done a lot of welding, a lot. And I'm very impressed with it going after a year and a half of me beating the crap out of it. It does 110 and 220 just like the plasma. So I normally do everything on 220 because it just helps it. Yeah, so we're gonna wait for that to cool down and then we're gonna pop that in, pop that on, be done with that part other than getting that one bolt. So let's take a sit break. Let's clean up. I'll just move this because I gotta weld that plate in under there. But yeah, so buy a Jeep, buy a welder, buy a plasma. You'll be good to go because you're gonna have to replace all the metal on it anyway. So, yep. Well, we got the bottom in. We got that little frame back in, tightened up, everything's good. Now we just gotta get that one bolt. Now I can lift up the rear end and undo these U-bolts just enough to hopefully slide these spacers in, and then we'll weld them to the spring purchase. Let's do that. Well, yeah, those are too long. I can't even get a long socket on it, so, or a deep socket. So, looks like I'm cutting them off, which I need to do. Anyway. All right, got this one in, if you can see. It's in there. I turned this little pivot thing around too, because I feel that this axle needs to pivot up a little bit more to account for the angle of the lift. So yeah. And then this doohickey right here that's all curved up, I might eventually put a brace between this little metal and that, so I can actually weld it to it and it won't rotate, which I might have to do. But right now I'm going to clean up this a little bit and we're just going to weld this on this side. Not worry about the outside right now, but just weld it to that so it stays put and it gives it more strength to stay put. So yeah, I'm going to tighten this thing back up and then weld that on there. All right, well, got it done. It's not the greatest, but it's patched and it shouldn't rotate backwards anymore. So, all right. Well, I've got another bolt. I went to the hardware store, got me another grade 8 bolt. So, cost me $1.50. Oh well, but got another bolt. So, these, if you're wondering what the transmission mount is, it is 7/16 by 14 coarse thread, inch. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna throw on real quick. We'll be done. Grease the rear drive shaft, and yeah, we're done. Yay! Once I do this. All right, well, we're done with that fix for this time around. So we still have to get these parts for the drive shaft. The seal in here is very difficult to come by. I've been looking, and really I don't know who makes it. So I'm gonna see if I can band-aid it or something. Other than that, I'm gonna get new U-joints. They're cheap, why not? Cheap maintenance. As for the front diff, it needs to be completely gone through and revamped. The rear, probably the same thing. They were both gonna get oil, but I think I'll put oil in transfer case, transmission, or the transfer case, transmission, the rear diff. I'll put new stuff in the front diff, but I still need to rebuild it because it's just, yeah. It's yeah, I don't like it. But so the stuff we've used today is the Arc Captain Cut 50 and the Reboot multi-use welder. I was using some flux core just because I didn't feel like grabbing my tank right there and moving it. Both economical, both found in the description below. Arc Captain, nice enough to send me that to test it out. And so I cut a lot with it actually. I'm actually gonna be doing a lot more after this video. Got a couple things to order, and then we're gonna really get into some cutting with the plasma a lot. As for future things for this, this bumper is gonna turn into a 2-inch round bumper because I don't really like that. And these are gonna turn into rock sliders / steps on the side, because getting in and out of a CJ, yeah, it's not fun. So the plan is I'm going to take these, cut these a little bit short. I still want the angles like this on here, so I'll probably cut it off because it's 10 inches longer than the sides need. But we'll probably put it about here and go straight into the frame with some load spreaders. So if I ever do go off-road or anything, it doesn't hit the body, it just hits the sliders, and they'll be out probably about here, as long as with the fender, so that the fender flare, so that you can use them as a step. I will use a Herculiner on them to make them extra grippy and make sure that if you step on them, they're going to be there. But I don't have any round or square tube like this, so this square tube is going to be welded to round tube because I got a lot of round tube. So yeah, but the brackets for that we're gonna make everything for that using the Cut 50, and we're gonna weld it all together with the Reboot welder. So yeah, got a couple more electronic things to deal with this, as of the fuel gauge still, lights still. Everything else is pretty much good. The voltmeter down here is not hooked up, but the original one is, so I'm kind of leaving that right now. But everything else is pretty good. I mean, for a 40-year-old Jeep, 45-year-old Jeep, yeah, we're gonna keep upgrading this as we go along, but Project Death Trap / Rust Bucket / Band-Aid, yeah, this is going well, and we're gonna keep going, and then we're gonna end up from going from a CJ5 to a CJ7 eventually. And that one's going to be a lot of work. So if you really want to see some fabrication and see some jankiness and stuff like that, yeah, you want to subscribe and like these videos so that you can keep up with them and everything else. But yeah, this is it for today. So check out the stuff used, description below, and yeah. Thanks for joining into another episode of the shop, and until next time.